of our VVIPs and our guest of honor. Thank you.
Welcome to the 19th International Labour Organization Regional Seminar. Labour professionals from across Africa are coming to Kigali to discuss skills development and decent job, brighter future. This year's theme is promoting skills and productive jobs for a common, better future.
We'll be discussing youth empowerment
alongside job creation and skills development.
We will also witness the establishment of inclusive policies,
as well as transformative infrastructure skills building
for sustainable employment in green sectors.
Who wants to see the development of a skilled workforce ready to take on future challenges? Well, we do, and that's why we're bringing labor professionals together. We'll be discussing with ministers, policymakers, employers and workers associations, labor-based technology practitioners, development partners, international organizations, higher academic and research institutions, and more.
Karibuni, Rwanda.
Welcome to Rwanda.
Murakaza neza mu Rwanda.
Bienvenue au Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Let us work towards building a brighter future for all, where decent work and economic growth go hand in hand. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 19th International Labour Organization Regional Seminar.
Rwanda.
Let us work towards building a brighter future for all, where decent work and economic growth go hand in hand. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 19th International Labour Organization Regional Seminar. Labour professionals from across Africa are coming to Kigali to discuss skills development and decent job, brighter future. This year's theme is promoting skills and productive jobs for a common, better future.
We'll be discussing youth empowerment
alongside job creation and skills development.
We will also witness
Development partners, international organizations, higher academic and research institutions, and more.
Karibuni, Rwanda.
Welcome to Rwanda.
Murakaza neza mu Rwanda.
Bienvenue au Rwanda.
Benvenuto a Rwanda. Rwanda.
Let us work towards building a brighter future for all, where decent work and economic growth go hand in hand. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 19th International
Ministers, representatives of delegations, excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished guests, employees and workers associations, representatives, ladies and gentlemen, All protocols observed. Good morning. Come on, it's Monday morning. You've had the weekend to rest, and the room is full. I need more voice than that. Good morning. Now we're talking. My name is Regis Isheja. I'll be your master of ceremonies now. Welcome to the 19th International Labor Practitioners Meeting. This meeting brings together participants from across the world. It includes ministers, policymakers, employers, workers, labor practitioners, development partners, researchers, and academicians. I wonder if MCs are part of those. I have to double check. The goal here is to exchange best practices, including sharing experiences, knowledge and technology, mutual learning in the spirit of South-South cooperation. Clap for that. And international solidarity, the theme that got us all gathered here, that will be driving us the entire time, is promoting skills and productive, decent jobs for our common, better future. So we'll be having 4 broken around. You'll get to understand all about it. But before we get into all that, there's a small video we got prepared. Roll the video, please.
Prosperous future for all labor practitioners. They envisioned an Africa where labor-based approaches weren't just strategies, but the very fabric of social and economic development. We acknowledge the labor that built our cities, the minds that pushed the boundaries of resilience and sustainability. They paved the way towards a more equitable African community. In their youth, our elders were the architects of our present and future. From ministers to policymakers, researchers to educators, employers and workers' associations to development partners, they were a constellation of influencers who sought to transform policy into actions, dreams into job creation, and bridges of opportunity. But the question remained, how could they achieve a society where decent jobs were a constant? Through dialogues, they distilled knowledge, shared experiences, refined practices, and ignited technologies. The discourse centered on intensive employment investment, the power of the people harnessed to create not just work, but decent, dignified work. Work that sowed the seeds of sustainable development and resilient African communities. 3 decades after Mbeya, Tanzania, were gathered here in Kigali, Rwanda, to redefine the landscape of labor by promoting skills and decent jobs for a common, better future. We will continue to imagine and reimagine, construct and deconstruct, until we find the blueprint where employability is not merely a statistic, but a testament that empowers youth and drives sustainable socio-economic development.
It's an honor and privilege to host a dialogue that promotes skills towards decent jobs for our common better future. We are here to discuss and share experiences, policies, strategies on how to build communities that are resilient to socio-economic, environmental, climate change hazards to ensure that we have just transformation through labor-intensive approaches.
Together we shall write a new chapter of progress, innovation, and empowerment. Welcome to the future we envision. Welcome to the revolution we ignite.
Welcome to Rwanda. Bienvenue au Rwanda. Ikaze mu Rwanda. Karibuni Rwanda. Have a pleasant stay in Rwanda. Que votre séjour au Rwanda soit agréable.
Well, you heard it. Welcome to Kigali, Rwanda. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask the head of the Tunisian delegation, Monsieur Fawzi Grab, to please come forward for some remarks. Sir.
Bonjour tout le monde. Excellences, Madame, Messieurs les chefs de délégation, chers séminaristes. La Tunisie a acquis la 18e édition du séminaire régional des praticiens IMO du 9 au 13 septembre 2019 sous le thème « Vers un développement local inclusif, valorisation des ressources locales et emploi décent ». La déclaration de Tunis a mis en valeur les progrès que nos différents pays ont réalisés, notamment en matière d'institutionnalisation, des réformes des cadres légaux et de mise en place de programmes tendant à promouvoir l'approche IMO. Elle a également mis l'accent sur le rôle que peut jouer cette approche dans le renforcement de la résilience de nos pays face au changement climatique. Le choix pertinent du thème promouvoir les compétences et les emplois productifs décents pour un meilleur avenir commun pour la 19e édition du séminaire s'inscrit dans la continuité des éditions passées et traduit l'engagement de nos pays dans sa concrétisation. Notre séminaire demeure une importante occasion pour approfondir nos échanges, partager nos expériences et élargir nos possibilités de partenariat afin de concrétiser les attentes de nos populations. Nous saisissons cette occasion pour remercier l'OIT et son équipe en Tunisie, nos partenaires permanents de développement qui, à travers leurs différents programmes, contribuent activement à la promouvoir de la justice sociale, le soutien des efforts de nos pays africains dans la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable, le renforcement de la stabilité sociale, la promotion de l'emploi décent, la lutte contre la pauvreté et l'appui aux catégories vulnérables. Nous invitons également l'OIT à renforcer son rôle actif dans la facilitation des échanges et des partenariats qui s'établissent en marge de chaque édition du séminaire à travers le lancement d'initiatives à même de renforcer la coopération sud-sud et triangulaire. Au nom de la délégation tunisienne, permettez-moi de remercier le Rwanda pour son chaleureux accueil et l'excellente organisation logistique du 19e séminaire régional des praticiens IMO. Avant de conclure, nous souhaitons un rapide rétablissement à notre grand ami, M. Emmanuel Rubaïza, le Rwandais, qui a introduit cette approche dans notre pays depuis plus d'une dizaine d'années. Le gouvernement tunisien garde en mémoire son grand engagement et ses touches techniques pour le bien des zones défavorisées. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs les chefs de délégation, chers séminaristes, je termine en exprimant nos vœux les plus sincères de réussite et de succès des travaux de notre 19e séminaire régional des praticiens IMO sous la présidence de notre pays frère, le Rwanda. Et merci pour votre attention.
Nous demandons à Madame la ministre de la fonction publique du Rwanda, qui est notre guest of honor aujourd'hui, de bien vouloir venir recevoir un cadeau de la part du chef de délégation tunisien. Applaudissez, applaudissez, c'est bon. Applaudissez encore une fois, s'il vous plaît. Merci. Let me now ask the ILO social partners one by one to please come and give us some remarks. First, Mr. John Kofi Takpo, who's Assistant Director in charge of Education and Researching at the OATUU. Sir.
Thank you very much. I think there are workers here, and we don't want to forget who we are. Solidarity. 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 Good morning, everybody. Bonjour à tout le monde. Honorable Ministers, Honorable Assistant Director General ILO, Excellencies, Ambassadors, comrades, distinguished guests, all protocols observed. On behalf of the Organization of African Trade Union Unity, OATU, I bring you warm greetings from its secretariat in Accra, Ghana. We highly appreciate your kind invitation to take part in this 19th Regional Seminar for Labor-Based Practitioners on the general theme, Promoting Skills and Productive Decent Jobs for Our Common Future, which is taking place from today, 15th to 19th of May 2023. The Organization of African Trade Union Unity, OATU, is the only trade union organization that represents all the trade union tendencies in Africa. It has 73 affiliates in all the 54 African countries, including the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, and it has a total membership of 25 million. Now, I want to seize this opportunity to thank all those who were present in the celebration of OATU's 50th anniversary celebration in Accra from 11th to 12th April. We further wish to thank the ILO for its continuous support, both technically and financially, to OATU. And it is our hope that this cordial relationship between the two organizations will further be strengthened in the areas of capacity building for our affiliates. We also want to thank the government and people of Rwanda for facilitating our smooth entry into this country. It is a very beautiful country, and I think we are here to learn a lot. Now, of interest to us as workers is the fact that the current situation of work and for workers on the global economy poses some challenges. And it poses it to the global economy, but especially to the African workers. Some key issues which are of concern to us are the multiple crises threatening the global economy, and even recovery in hours worked, divergence in employment which persists in recovery, which is driven by informal jobs, and the fact that global prospects are worrisome. What is also worrisome is the fact that the outlook for the labor market is currently uncertain, with growing downside risk on many fronts. In addition to that, inflation is expected to remain high, and in response to this, many central banks are rapidly tightening their monetary policies. Furthermore, the Russian-Ukraine war had increased inflationary pressures as energy prices spiked, severely worsening the trade-off between growth and price stability faced by the monetary institutions, which spurred the pace of tightening. Now, looking at the African continent by age group in the year 2021, there were 207 million children aged 0 to 4. In total, the population aged 17 years and younger amounted to 650 million individuals. In contrast, only 48 million individuals aged 65 and older were found in the same year. And this situation tells us that we have a serious problem at hand. We have the youth, our young men and women, who are innovative and creative and have the energy to work. This group must be seriously taken care of. Jobs must be created for them, not just jobs, but decent jobs. So their needs must urgently be addressed. We are equally aware of the fact that the world of work is changing. We as workers know that there are new forms of employment which have been created in recent years, and the nature of forms of employment have changed, and this will continue to change. This is inevitable as we have new technologies which are being introduced in the world, or in the world of work. Likewise, environmental degradation, globalization, democratic shift also contribute to this change. Well, change is not a fatality. The world is not static, and therefore they must occur. And they are occurring wherever we find ourselves, in our homes, in our workplaces. And as workers, we don't have to be afraid. All we have to do is to be prepared to adapt to change. Notwithstanding all these challenges, there is one key instrument which we can use to help address some of these challenges. And this has to do with the ILO. This has to do with the ILO instrument, which talks about social dialogue. And this is where we as workers can come and work together with governments. We can have the tripartite, the bipartite, and discuss issues that concern our welfare. It is worthwhile notice that for us as trade unions, we have the consolation that we have the instruments which allow us to have freedom of association, and also we can also negotiate with our employers. Now, on the continental level, OATU will continue to ensure that this key instrument, the social dialogue, will be institutionalized at the national and tripartite levels so that workers, government, and employers can sit down together and engage in productive talks which can lead to employment-related issues, policies towards ensuring a conducive and harmonious working industrial atmosphere, free of violence and harassment. And this will be championed through the relationship with the African Union Commission, which stands as a platform for the convergence of committees of nations in Africa. Now, we want to give an assurance to our governments and employers that workers in Africa are not enemies. We are partners in development. We shall be ever ready to support in very good policies that will lead to the creation of decent jobs for our people. Now, what we don't want is to be left out of the policy formulation process. We want to be part of all policies that will be formulated. We want to be part of the implementation. We want to be part of the monitoring, and we want to be part of the evaluation. If all this is done, it will enhance a working environment free of conflicts, free of violence. There is a cue we want to take from Singapore. And this was during the time of their former president, His Excellency Lee Kuan Yew, on his leadership team. They implemented 3 key principles, which they call MPH: meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. These were the 3 secrets that led them to where they are today. Now, on my way to this place, on the bus to my hotel, a lady who is also here with us asked me, "Where do you work?" I said, "I work with the trade unions." The first thing she said was, "You people are always there to make trouble." And I gave her this African proverb, which comes from Nigeria. It says, "A hill that does not want maggots should not grow mushrooms." So our government embraces. We are there to support so that this theme is realized. You know, trade unions, we live by numbers. So the more jobs, decent jobs we have, the better for us. On this note, I want to thank all of you for listening to me. Long live OATU, long live the ILO, long live the African worker, long live international solidarity. Thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir. Let me now ask Mr. Duncan Otieno, who's a project manager at Business Africa, to please come forward for a few remarks as well.
Distinguished ministers, government representatives and delegations, Assistant General Director ILO, ambassadors, workers and employers associations, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you greetings from the Federation of Kenya Employers and Secretary General of Business Africa Employers Confederation based in Nairobi, Kenya. Indeed, we are humbled to participate in this 19th Regional Seminar for labor-based practitioners. Promoting skills and productivity and productive work for our common better future is indeed a strategic agenda towards sustainable economic growth and development in the region. As Employers Federation, we have to continuously advocate for business environment that facilitates growth of sustainable enterprises, investments, employment, and socio-economic development in Africa. We would really want to emphasize on developing skills because in the labor market, we need to ensure that we have skills that the market needs, and we need to work towards eliminating skills mismatch. So kind of bit of really training which is relevant to promoting skills and decent work really is needed. Again, we are keen at looking at Africa integration, and this is really looking at issues of free movement of African residents. If really we need employment to be at its peak, we need to look at issues of labor and products across Africa. The third, we also want to look at supporting enterprise growth and sustainability, because then these will lead to job creation in Africa. And we thank God we have really a young workforce, which has been talked about earlier on, and we need to take advantage of this as a region to ensure that we move to the next level. The fourth, we also need to continuously enhance continental business-to-business discussions, business-to-government collaborations, and this, of course, will be anchored on the principle of social dialogue. We have to talk to each other so that we are able to make employment simple. We need to simplify processes that lead to establishment and expansion of businesses. We also really need to embrace the spirit of tripartism and trust in business engagement if we have to achieve this theme. Delegates and colleagues, as I conclude, I would want to leave us the positive note and encourage us all to remain focused on enhancing business operating environment. I keep on repeating this, and in Kenya we say repeat again. That does not mean that we are not grammatically correct. We are just emphasizing. So I want to believe my colleagues from Kenya would appreciate if I say, let me repeat again, that we need to enhance business operating environment that promotes skills and productive jobs for our common better future. And the way I said, we are based in Africa, and we have young, talented workforce. Taking advantage of this workforce, building their capacity, strategically positioning them in the labor market will take us to where we want to go. Otherwise, thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Et maintenant, au nom de ILO, j'inviterai Monsieur André Boguy, qui est directeur général assistant, de bien vouloir nous adresser la parole. Merci.
Honorable Gwaindo Fanfan, Minister of Public Service and Labor, Honorable Ministers, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des organisations de travailleurs et d'employeurs, Mesdames et Messieurs, en vos rangs, grades et qualités, tout protocole respecté, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est pour moi un honneur et un privilège de prendre la parole devant cette auguste assemblée à l'occasion de la 19e édition du séminaire régional des praticiens de la haute intensité de main-d'œuvre, IMO. Je voudrais vous présenter les excuses du directeur général de l'OIT qui n'a pu être physiquement avec nous, mais c'est avec un grand plaisir qu'il sera connecté pour échanger avec les participants de la session ministérielle qui suivra cette cérémonie d'ouverture. Permettez-moi tout d'abord de remercier le chef de l'État, son Excellence, Monsieur le Président Paul Kagame, et le gouvernement de la République du Rwanda pour avoir accepté d'organiser avec l'efficacité reconnue aux autorités de ce pays cette importante activité et pour l'accueil très chaleureux qui nous a été réservé. Je voudrais aussi vous remercier, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres. Votre présence à ce séminaire, malgré vos emplois du temps très chargés, est un témoignage de l'intérêt que vous portez toujours à la problématique de l'emploi et à la promotion de l'agenda pour le travail décent. En effet, malgré les progrès enregistrés dans de nombreux pays africains, force est de constater que l'accès à un emploi productif et décent demeure une préoccupation majeure. Unis et solidaires, comme vous l'avez démontré ces dernières années, nous avons la capacité de relever les défis de la pauvreté, du chômage et des inégalités. La directrice régionale pour l'Afrique aura l'occasion d'expliquer certaines initiatives et programmes mis en œuvre pour atteindre nos objectifs communs. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, décideurs politiques ou praticiens ou encore partenaires au développement, vous avez répondu massivement et avec enthousiasme à l'invitation conjointe du Rwanda et du BIT de vous joindre à cette importante activité de partage de connaissances et d'expériences. Au moment où le monde fait face à des crises multiformes qui affectent plus durement les populations les plus vulnérables, il me plaît sincèrement de saluer ce bel exemple de coopération Sud-Sud qui a démarré en 1990 à Mbeya, en Tanzanie, avec l'appui du Bureau international du travail. Ce portage par les pays témoigne du fort intérêt de ces derniers aux approches intensives en emploi pour construire et entretenir les infrastructures publiques et communautaires. Le secteur de la construction a un fort potentiel de création d'emplois. Il sera au cœur des échanges de ce séminaire régional. La promotion de l'agenda pour le travail décent, qui permet à chaque femme et à chaque homme d'accéder à un emploi productif, rémunérateur et librement choisi, est une responsabilité conjointe du Bureau de l'OIT et de ses mandants. C'est au niveau national et local que l'objectif d'ensemble du travail décent se traduit par des changements dans la vie des gens. Dans ce contexte, l'approche IMO offre à des personnes peu qualifiées et à des communautés des opportunités d'emploi, de revenus et de formation, tout en facilitant l'accès à des infrastructures communautaires de base, d'éducation et de santé. Il facilite en outre l'accès à une alimentation saine, à l'eau potable et à un logement décent. Cette approche, qui a une forte dimension sociale, fournit aux populations les plus défavorisées les capacités pour s'inscrire dans une dynamique positive d'insertion socio-professionnelle. Il convient cependant de noter que l'approche IMO n'est pas une panacée. Il constitue un point d'entrée pour aborder la question du travail décent et le respect de ses principes dans le secteur de la construction dont l'impact sur le développement des autres secteurs de l'économie n'est plus à démontrer. Il est rassurant de constater que l'engagement constant des pays que vous représentez est mobilisé par une volonté de promouvoir et mettre en œuvre l'agenda pour le travail décent au niveau national en vue de répondre aux besoins des populations. On compte au moins 70 pays à faible revenu ou à revenu intermédiaire, dont 40 pays africains, qui ont bénéficié du programme IMO. La tenue de ce séminaire, dans un contexte de crise multiforme, doit nous amener à nous questionner en toute objectivité sur l'impact des modèles d'intervention, des approches et des technologies utilisées pour arbitrer et mettre en œuvre les investissements publics. Nous devons évaluer l'impact de ces politiques d'investissement sur l'emploi. Les crises actuelles nous enseignent que les approches qui mettent l'humain au centre de nos politiques, qui valorisent les bénéficiaires finaux ou privilègent les solutions basées sur les technologies locales et soucieuses de la préservation de notre environnement, méritent davantage notre attention. De nombreuses mutations affectent le monde de la construction et nous interpellent sur les difficultés d'adaptation à des nouveaux métiers difficilement accessibles pour les populations marginalisées et durement impactées. Le contexte actuel est particulièrement préoccupant pour les millions de chômeurs jeunes ou de personnes en situation de sous-emploi en Afrique, dont une bonne partie, et vous le savez déjà, sont des acteurs de l'économie informelle, avec une protection limitée ou pas du tout. La majorité de cette frange de la population voit sa condition de vie chaque jour se dégrader, notamment lorsqu'elle n'a pas d'éducation formelle au-delà du niveau secondaire ou ne possède aucune compétence professionnelle. L'un des sous-thèmes de la conférence porte sur les aptitudes et compétences pour des infrastructures transformatrices et des moyens de subsistance durables. Les programmes IMO fournissent non seulement des emplois, mais ils développent également les compétences de personnes et les aident à devenir plus employables. Les échanges de cette semaine doivent aussi permettre d'analyser ce contexte de crise qui impactent négativement l'espace fiscal et les budgets d'investissement des pays et qui influencent le choix des méthodes d'évaluation et de gestion des programmes d'investissement des infrastructures et dans l'environnement. Il est nécessaire d'adopter une démarche qui prend en compte l'intérêt des populations pour lesquelles ces infrastructures sont construites lorsque cela est techniquement possible et économiquement rentable. Nous pouvons rester optimistes. La situation de crise que nous vivons ne sont pas une fatalité. Elles peuvent aussi être des opportunités pour le renforcement des capacités des générations futures, pour la reconstruction et ou le développement des pays. Pour cette raison, je salue la pertinence du thème de ce séminaire qui met l'accent sur le développement des compétences, clé de voûte pour reconstruire mieux le monde de demain. Restons donc optimistes, car si la contribution du secteur de la construction à l'emploi reste encore faible en Afrique, on parle d'environ 4,2%, alors qu'il se situe à 8% en moyenne dans les autres régions du monde, les grands projets régionaux prévus dans le cadre de l'agenda 2063 de l'Union africaine, tout comme ceux en cours comme l'initiative de la Grande Muraille verte, nous permettent de garder espoir. Des études indiquent que les investissements en Afrique doivent croître de plus de 5% pour répondre à la demande massive d'infrastructures estimée à environ 100 milliards de dollars par an. Le secteur de la construction présente un fort potentiel de création d'emplois et d'inclusion des jeunes au marché du travail, notamment pour ceux et celles qui ne sont ni en emploi, ni en éducation, ni en formation. La qualification et la reconversion professionnelle des jeunes et des travailleurs sont capitales pour les aider à s'adapter aux transitions. Honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for the ILO, universal and lasting peace can be established only if it is based upon social justice. Time has come for more social justice for all, and each of us can play a critical role. Numerous factors are exacerbating poverty and security, inequality, decent work, and social fracture in many countries, reinforcing the mistrust in institutions, limiting access to opportunities such as education and freely chosen employment, and creating social tension. Our constituents expect the ILO to provide an inclusive response to create decent work for youth and vulnerable groups in the context of recovery and sustainable development. But as the quest for social justice is our common responsibility, we must all act swiftly to address the challenges we face and respond to the need of the population. A human-centered and right-based approach is required to tackle short-term crises and long-term trends. This approach should prioritize at the same level the economic, social, and environmental dimension of sustainability. It should promote the realization of universal human rights and capabilities, equal access to opportunities, a fair distribution and just transition. This goal of social justice should be reflected in national and global policy making and activities, development cooperation, and financial trade and investment agreements. Against this background, the world will benefit from a coalition which aspires to leverage capacities, improve coordination, and coherence to increase scale and impact of action towards social justice. It is with this in mind that the ILO Director General is proposing to forge a global coalition for social justice. The Global Coalition for Social Justice represents an international effort to advance social justice by promoting decent work. It will deepen and strengthen the international community engagement to advance social justice. It will also promote the implementation of the Decent Work Agenda and contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. Furthermore, the coalition will seek to promote, guide, and amplify action in areas where greater solidarity, coherence, and coordination is needed. At the next International Labour Conference in June 2023, a World of Work Summit, Social Justice for All, will be organized. It will be a high-level forum for global voices to address the need for increased, coordinated, and coherent action in support of social justice. The summit will provide an opportunity to discuss and inform the proposal to forge a global coalition for social justice. It will highlight the key role of social justice in creating a more sustainable and equitable world, and discuss the strategy for increased and better aligned joint action to advance social justice and ensure policy coherence. The current seminar for labor-based practitioners is not isolated from this approach, since it is fundamentally social in nature and primarily target group in difficulty. We call for the solidarity of international partners to assume an advocacy role for social justice with the support of the ILO tripartite constituent and other relevant organizations. This solidarity implies the political and financial support of government and international partners for programs that make it possible to build back better, to enhance the job creation potential of public investment, will protect and positively impact people's lives. I wish every success to the 90th edition of the Regional Seminar of Labor-Based Practitioners. The ILO stands ready to support your effort, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Merci, Monsieur Bougui. And now, with her permission, let me ask the Minister of Rwanda for Public Service and Labor, Madame the Honorable Fanfan Rwanyindo, to please give us her keynote address and open the regional seminar. Honorable Minister.
Honorable ILO Assistant Director General and Director of the Director General Office, Honorable Ministers and Cabinet members here present, representatives of Diplomatic Corps, distinguished members of development partners, representatives of employers and workers associations, representatives of higher academic and research institutions, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, bonjour. As we gather here today to discuss on how to promote skills in order to achieve productive jobs for our common better futures,
It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you, Excellencies and distinguished guests, to Kigali, the capital city of the Republic of Rwanda. Bienvenue au Rwanda. Welcome to Rwanda. Karibuni Rwanda. I would like to start by extending my sincere appreciation for the effective and fruitful collaboration between the International Labour Organization and the Government of Rwanda that yielded to the successful organization of the 19th ILO Regional Seminar for Labour-Based Practitioners. This seminar is an opportunity to discuss and share best practices, experiences, policies, programs, and strategies on how to promote employability skills through public and private pro-employment and labor-intensive investment projects. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is critical to recognize that skills and employability constitute a bridge from poverty to socio-economic development in order to intentionally direct our resources and investments. Shedding more light on the need for deliberations specifically oriented to the promotion of employability skills development and job creation, and the importance of such seminar, let me remind you that skills mismatch continues to be the main barrier to job creation and labor productivity, hence posing a serious threat to our country's economies. Such a reality is more so felt on our continent, where the demographic dividends tend to become a burden when it should normally be a strength and opportunity to grow economically and give hopes to our youth. Researchers on the labor market revealed that 3 out of 4 employers report difficulties in finding talent they need and consequently low labor market productivity. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, skills mismatch upsurges in employment as it affects negatively the competitiveness of emerging private sector and attractiveness of investors, leading to loss of opportunities on the pathway to productive transformation and job creation. Now, more than ever, there is a need for mainstreaming employability skills development and jobs creation interventions in our national plans. This seminar, therefore, offers an appropriate setup to devise adequate mechanisms to achieve it. It is in the very same context that the government of Rwanda has put in place National Skills Development and Employment Promotion Strategy, National Skills Development and Employment Promotion Strategy to drive the national employment policy implementation through creating clear linkage between labor market, demand, and supply. This has enabled to achieve meaningful policies such as the workplace learning policy, defining of TVET as a national priority and a key driver of the, and a key driver of the intended economic development and social transformation of our country. More efforts will be invested in skills development as we keep on increasing access, quality, and relevance of our TVET programs in line with the requirement of the current and future labor market conditions. Being also mindful that they are driven by technological advancement of the fourth industrial revolution. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt that such a gathering will bring to the table furthermore insight through sharing of experiences and best practices to allow each of our respective countries to achieve more strides in creating conducive environment for our youth employment and future generations. We look forward to the upcoming resolutions. With these remarks, I declare the 19th ILO Regional Seminar for Labor-Based Practitioners officially opened. I wish you a very productive and fruitful deliberation. Thank you, murakoze, asante, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. She deserves another hand of applause. Come on. We're all right. And now to spotlight reimagining jobs creation, employability, and youth empowerment. Let me invite first Miss Cynthia Samuel Olonjuwon. She's the ILO ADG and Regional Director for Africa.
Honorable Minister Fanfan Raindo, the Minister for Public Service and Labor, Mifotra, all honorable ministers present and heads of delegations, the head of the Tunisian delegation, employers and workers' representatives here with us, the ILO ADG and Director of Cabinet, and all the ILO colleagues and other members of the UN family who are present here with us, our partners, the AFDB, and bilaterals like the Belgian government, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Building on the presentation, the speech that was made by Mr. Andre Bogi, I'll just add from the African continent that the ILO is very proud of this fruitful collaboration with the government of Rwanda. Indeed, I was going to say something later that will make us applaud, so you will still have to applaud. Indeed, this event has become a record-breaking event. I won't go into all the details of how the 19th session of the regional seminar has broken virtually all records. And Madam Minister, we applaud you and your team for the whole of government approach to this initiative. Congratulations. As has been said in different ways by previous speakers, this gathering provides us with a unique opportunity not only for policy dialogue, but also for programmatic discourse and sharing of best practices and engaging with the academia and all other key stakeholders on modalities, on approaches that will enable us maximize the opportunities provided by employment-intensive investment approaches, particularly for fostering sustainable development and sustainable and inclusive development. And what we have demonstrated by the government of Rwanda and all the governments and stakeholders represented here is that commitment to ensuring that there is transformation in Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly recall that in December 2019, at the very highest levels, governments, employers, and workers came together to adopt the Abidjan Declaration on Advancing Social Justice in Africa. And this declaration is premised on a human-centered approach committed to promoting inclusive and sustainable economic development and growth, full and productive, freely chosen employment, and decent work for all. Skills development and increased employment-intensive infrastructure investments are at the heart of achieving this commitment. Indeed, we can, as a continent, freely be proud. The technical meeting of the STC on finance, monetary affairs, economic planning, and integration of the African Union Commission endorsed this orientation. Furthermore, it is important to develop innovative approaches and tools for policy and program development in areas of employment. In this regard, we're also pleased to share with you that the ILO is collaborating with the African Development Bank to develop a jobs marker in support of the AFDB's employment-oriented outcomes. The jobs marker is a revolutionary tool seen, in fact, as a game changer, not only in Africa, but globally. This tool is to enable the bank to systematically consider employment effects when designing and appraising its future projects or investments. Based on the request of the AFDB, the scope of this tool has been broadened. In addition, it is important to develop joint knowledge products to foster policy coherence and program coherence. One of the many good examples we have in Africa is the joint ILO-AFDB report on building pathways to sustainable growth, strengthening technical and vocational education, and the productive sector linkages, a report that we will be launching later today. The launch of the report is a testimony of the AFDB's commitment to work with key UN institutions like the ILO to jointly better equip Africa's youth and adult workers in the skills needed in a fast-changing world of work. Permit me, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to share with you one of my favorite quotes from Alvin Toffler. And it reads, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Africa continues to make progress in several areas. However, there are significant gaps in infrastructure and infrastructure development. Existing infrastructure assets are often deteriorating, and this provides opportunities for jobs. As Mr. Andre Bogi said earlier, the opportunities to really tap into this is significant. The employment-intensive program and approaches that we have in Africa is being implemented in more than 25 countries, and the list is growing. To ensure that we fully optimize this area, this approach, the continent is in the process of developing an employment-intensive investment strategy. And this will complement the ongoing development of the youth employment strategy in collaboration with the African Union Commission and other key partners. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, another key driver of job creation is the digital economy and the expansion of digital technologies across all sectors of the economy. Investment in digital infrastructure is required to narrow the large digital divide, particularly between the urban and rural areas, and to ensure that we tap into the opportunities availed in this area to promote decent jobs, particularly for youth. With this in mind, I'm pleased to share with you that the ILO is working very closely with the International Telecommunications Union and the African Union Commission on a joint program on boosting decent jobs and enhancing digital skills in Africa's digital economy. From the initial 6 countries, Côte d'Ivoire, Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, and South Africa, the program has expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, and Uganda. Through this program, we have seen Kenya support the digitalization of TVET, both in terms of curricula and services. Countries like Rwanda are also making noteworthy progress along with Nigeria, South Africa, and the other countries covered. There's so many other initiatives, including our collaboration with IFAD, to help us maximize the opportunities in the agroeconomy, which are interventions that are to boost the transformation of our youthful assets into not only continental demographic dividends, but assets from Africa to the world. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my statement, I would like to emphasize the following action points. Implementing the Abidjan Declaration, the Agenda 2030, the African Union Agenda 2063. All these are in line with the ideals of the Global Coalition on Social Justice, championed by the ILO Director General, as we were informed earlier. Indeed, social justice is critical for addressing inequalities that characterize many of our countries. It's also crucial for addressing the issues around informality, as well as skills development. Let me add, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that the Global Accelerator for Jobs and Social Protection for a Just Transition is a real opportunity for African countries to tap into. This Global Accelerator is a very useful tool for translating the very lofty aspirations of the Abidjan Declaration into concrete reality in an accelerated manner. In collaboration with the African Union, UN partners, the international financial institutions, and our member states, I am pleased to let you know that the ILO in Africa is implementing the Africa Social Protection Strategy 2021 to 2025 that aims to accelerate social protection coverage from the current 17% to 40% by 2025. Is this a very high ambition? Of course it is. Can we do it? Absolutely. No doubt we can, and we are already doing it. The good news is that within 3 years already, the number of countries for which we have data increased from 17 countries for the 2019 report to 37 countries when we launched the report in 2022. This is the Global Social Protection Report. And we have significantly increased in certain countries the coverage that will make us really be able to meet the target. These are not figures. These are lives. These are interventions that also translate to wealth creation. I've talked about embracing the Global Coalition for Social Justice. Last but not the least, I would like to emphasize that the ILO's Employment Intensive Investment Program is able to contribute to all the priorities I have mentioned through the investments and ensuring that Africa's infrastructural development and construction sector are inclusive and leave no one behind, and that they are adapted to the demands of climate change, as well as providing emergency support in fragile settings and situations. And we trust that all of us here will work together to strengthen the achievements of the program and its goals. I will end, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with a quote from one of Africa's very well-known sons, Nelson Mandela. It is in our hands. It's in our hands to create a better world, not only in our communities, not only in Africa, but in the entire world. Thank you very much for your attention. Murakoze. Merci infiniment.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Olonjuwon. Now, did you guys hear her tone and her energy? It's 11:37 a.m. We have no reason not to have that kind of energy. Clap for her again, please. I'm starting to wonder if I made the right career choice after hearing her. She might be coming for my job. I'm worried. All right. Next, let me, for the same, in the same vein, let me ask Mrs. Hendrina Doroba, who's a Division Manager for Education and Skills Development at the African Development Bank Group, to please come for a few words.
The Honorable Minister of Public Service and Labor of Rwanda, the Assistant Director General for ILO, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good morning. I want to start by appreciating the organizers for inviting the Africa Development Bank, your partner of choice in economic transformation of the continent. We are really honored to be here to be part of this conversation. So thank you so much. And indeed, it is my privilege to address you today on a topic that is at the center of our development work as the bank, creating an enabling environment for job creation and youth employment on the African continent. I want to start by reiterating the pressing and unfortunately continuous challenge of youth employment in Africa. This indeed highlights the significance of skills development and entrepreneurship as catalytic in the empowerment and sustainable growth of Africa. As we gather today, it is crucial to acknowledge the scale of youth unemployment crisis in Africa. With a rapidly growing youth population, the job market is struggling to keep up with the demand for employment opportunities. We do acknowledge that 83% of the 18 million young people who enter the labor market in sub-Saharan Africa every year remain jobless or underemployed in the informal sector. High levels of youth unemployment not only hinder economic progress, but also poses risks to social stability and development. We indeed are at a center where we need to look at the best way forward as a continent. On one hand, we need to ensure we have the right and enabling environment for the private sector to create enough jobs. On the other, we need to ensure African youth are ready and able to take up these new jobs. So then, how do we address this as practitioners? But I think more importantly, what is the Africa Development Bank doing in this regard? We want to acknowledge that a highly skilled labor force is associated with higher earnings of people, higher earning for countries, and indeed a strong cohesion in societies. And therefore, we need to prioritize skills development as a continent. We can only do that by equipping young people with relevant skills, and we can also bridge the gap between education and employment. More importantly, we need to put a lot of emphasis on vocational education and training, as well as higher education. These are vital in enhancing employability by providing practical skills as well as industry-specific knowledge. We need to acknowledge, of course, that the financing gap in education and skills development is estimated at about 40 billion annually, especially in the area of technical vocational education and training, as well as higher education. At the Africa Development Bank, compared to other multilateral institutions, we have invested most in terms of total education commitment towards technical vocational education and higher education, above 916 million over the last 6 years. This in itself has healed over 4,000 education facilities that have either been rehabilitated or constructed. We have seen more than 1 million youth that have been equipped with vocational education skills, and over 88,000 teachers that have been trained to improve quality of teaching, and over 600,000 of people in the labor force have received demand-driven training. Of course, more needs to be done by the Africa Development Bank and indeed by everyone who is present today, as the demand to bring innovative solutions and increase access to industrial relevant skills is on the increase. We certainly need to work together to be innovative on how we address the financing gap. The financing gap in TVET limits our ability to provide quality training, to upgrade infrastructure, and to ensure access to all. Long seen as having limited return on investment, risky, sometimes collaboration among stakeholders has also been a challenge, but we do believe that can bridge this gap and be able to empower the youth with the skills that they need for sustainable livelihood. Private sector present in innovative approaches is also critical in addressing financing gap, particularly in the area of TVET. Indeed, we need to work together with government, private sector, and civil society to allow and utilize the pool of resources, expertise, and networks to be able to support the Technical Vocational Education Initiative. The establishment of the Skills Development Fund dedicated to TVET can also be a game changer. These funds can be financed through contributions from government, private sector, stakeholders, and also those that are providing support for sustainable investment in the technical vocational education. Technology and digital platforms also offer innovative solutions to reduce the cost of TVET delivery and bridges the financing gap. Online learning, as we know, virtual apprenticeship, and digital content can make the technical vocational education more accessible, flexible, as well as affordable. Therefore, we need to create the right enabling environment as well on how we deliver and how we meet the skills need. ICT infrastructure and connectivity, which are key to ensuring quality delivery, must be supported to ensure that we have remote access, increased enrollment, as well as increased support to our TVET institutions. Low internet penetration has put most of the African population, especially the youth, at a disadvantage in acquiring digital skills. The Africa Development Bank, through its Coding for Employment flagship program, focuses on equipping youth with digital coding skills, which enable self-employment, efficient school-to-work transition, as well as enhanced skills for industry needs. The Coding for Employment has equipped over 80,000 youth from 45 countries with digital skills and relevant skills, including the soft skills that go beyond the ICT sector. Labor market needs are actually evolving due to technological advancement. Some 230 million digital jobs are projected to be created by 2030. As a continent, we should embrace innovation in employment technology to create a favorable environment for job creation. Employment-intensive technology are certainly innovative ways of addressing this. Hence, to fully unleash the power of skills development and employment-intensive technologies, we must create an enabling environment. We call upon the government, because we do acknowledge they have a crucial role in making sure that we have the right policies in place to be able to promote such interventions. The critical role of government to foster an environment conducive to sustainable job creation and creating the right opportunities for youth to grasp and thrive cannot be overemphasized. Public financing of TVET and higher education has not kept pace with the increase in the number of potential students that are in the subsector. And therefore, the government in Africa need to invest beyond the 0.2% of the GDP, which they are investing in TVET, and 0.9% in higher education if we are to achieve our aspirations. The research and development driving technological advancements and creates new industries leading to job creation and economic growth. Indeed, the African governments should continue to invest more in research and development initiatives, establish innovation hubs, and support research institutions to develop cutting-edge solutions tailored to the African context. Collaboration with academia, private sector, and government is crucial in driving innovation and translating research into tangible outcome. Policy reforms, therefore, are needed to promote innovative financing mechanisms to create an enabling environment and to remove barriers to invest in skills development. With that, let us move from how to ensure that the youth are enabled and supported to take up jobs to actually creating the jobs required for the African youth. Small and medium enterprise are one of the main engines for job creation. It is estimated that in Africa, the SME sector accounts for more than 80% of jobs created annually, and that the medium and small entrepreneurs contribute about 33% to Africa's GDP. Considering that most of the new labor market entrants will be unemployed and discouraged, and the stimulus law of entrepreneurship in job creation, it is therefore vital that youth are adequately supported as entrepreneurs and provided with the opportunity to become productive workforce on the African continent. And this means they will be able to create their own jobs, if not jobs for their peers. About 60% of the medium and small entrepreneurs in Africa cite access to finance as the main bottleneck to their growth and the risk to their survival. Most traditional financial institutions continue to overestimate the risk of lending to medium and small entrepreneurs, remaining risk-averse when it comes to lending to micro, small, and even medium enterprise. These gaps and aversions can lead to SME credit gap in Africa, which is estimated at over 330 billion, which is about 15% of the Africa GDP. And that means we are left with only 51% of the continent's 44 million formal, small, and medium enterprise who are without the finance necessary for their growth and for potential to create jobs. The environment in which medium and small enterprise or startups operate can also strive for growth. From the enabling environment and market to the supportive for productive, including qualified human capital would be necessary to increase the value as well as be catalytic in job creation and growth for Africa. We therefore cannot underestimate the power of a well-designed policy, and indeed the government must prioritize and implement policies that encourage investment, innovation, and entrepreneurship. These policies should promote a business-friendly environment, reduce bureaucracy, hurdles, as well as facilitate access to finance and market. And while Africa continues to experience a vibrant wave of entrepreneurs, sustaining business is a challenge, again, because of the poor entrepreneurial skills and culture, leading to low productivity and lack of competitiveness. Issues around skills mismatch are also critical, are not only experienced in the formal sector, but also in the informal sector. It is therefore our responsibility to ensure that entrepreneurs are supported in acquiring the hard and soft skills for entrepreneurship and the quality of business and advisory services required for them to be successful. The Africa Development Bank has prioritized the catalytic role of entrepreneurship to create jobs and to proper Africa economies. This includes the role of the youth in entrepreneurship, SME support, interventions such as making sure that they are able to access market, that they have the capacity required to be able to be successful. We also have activities that are aimed at improving access to market, as well as creating an enabling environment. We do this through supporting our regional member countries. One of these interventions is supporting the Africa Development Bank regional member countries is the establishment of Youth Entrepreneur Investment Bank. These financial institutions are intended to address market gaps and failures in the provision of financial and non-financial services to youth entrepreneurs. Indeed, Youth Entrepreneur Investment Bank turns African youth into an attractive investment and asset of class. Together, we need to advocate for the development of innovative financing models such as microfinance, venture capitals, and angel investment to bridge the financing gap, while at the same time encouraging collaboration between financial institutions, government agencies, and international organizations to provide tailor-made financial products and services for youth-led startups and SMEs. Indeed, colleagues have spoken, technology and digital innovation have also a transformative power of unlocking opportunities for SMEs and entrepreneurs. Access to digital platform, e-commerce, and online marketing can expand market reach and improve competitiveness, especially among the small and medium enterprise. It is therefore up to us to advocate for incorporating in our strategies the investment in digital infrastructure, internet connectivity, and the development of local tech ecosystem to create a tech-enabled environment for business growth and thrive. And so, let's imagine that we are in 2043. It is the 29th ILO Regional Seminar. Since 2023 seminar on the job readiness and skills development, we have joined forces to prioritize TVET and higher education, science and technology, and created an enabling environment that supports the financing of quality education and training programs. We are in a century where the private and the government are leading investors. On the business side, in 2043, job creation is youth-led, and young employees have the right skills mix and are driving the economy. A youth-led business that is ready to invest in its growth and has access to the right financing options based on their size, stage, as well as sector. We are in a century where youth-led businesses are also able to reach customers across the continent through e-commerce and are mostly employing other young people. What would we say? We have done it. Indeed, we invested in the Africa's future, its youth, while unlocking opportunities for economic growth and significantly reducing youth unemployment. At the same time, creating inclusive societies. Every young person that wants and needs it will have access to quality skills training. Through our collective effort and innovative approaches, in 2043, we will build a brighter future for our youth, propelled by our nations towards prosperity. Indeed, our collective efforts to re-image job creation and empower the youth has transformed the Africa future. In conclusion, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as the Africa Development Bank, we're looking forward to the collective effort, and indeed, let's forge partnership, share best practices, and take collective action to re-image job creation and youth empowerment. Thank you so much for your attention, and I wish you all a successful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're still here talking about reimagining jobs creation, employability, and youth employability and youth empowerment. In that regard, let me invite l'ambassadeur du Royaume de Belgique au Rwanda, Excellence Bert Versmussen, pour quelques mots. Merci.
Honorable Minister of Public Service and Labour, other ministers and cabinet members, colleagues of the diplomatic corps, heads of delegations, representatives of both labour unions and employers, distinguished guests. It says behind me here that this is a regional seminar for labor-based practitioners. So the question is a valid one. Why is a Belgian ambassador speaking to you? Because I am not a labor-based practitioner. And of course, the ambassador of Belgium, by definition, is not from the region. Yet, we had no doubt whatsoever in accepting the invitation, because the theme of the conference, promoting skills and decent jobs for a common better future, is a priority for my government. And we are happy to support both the conference specifically, but also the agenda at large. And let me develop this a little bit through my short remarks, starting with obviously the context. And the context is the importance of job creation in Africa. This continent has severely felt the impact of multiple global crises and economic slowdown due to COVID-19, and then obviously the impact on global prices of the Russian aggression against the Ukraine. The World Bank expects economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa to diminish this year to a low of 3.1%. And that needs to be contrasted against the good development of general health and life expectancy, which has known a steady increase over the last decades, resulting in strong population growth. If the African continent is to achieve the SDGs, the key lies in the stimulation of sustainable economic growth that reaches the broad layers of the growing population, that is inclusive. Every year, millions of young people enter the African job markets, but that market has difficulties in absorbing them. And those that are lucky enough to land a job then all too often remain stuck in insecure, informal, lowly paid livelihoods. I refer to what one of the previous speakers said. It's all about the quality of the job. It's not just the job, but also the quality. At a global level, 4 billion people are lacking security of social protection. And if they get ill, they can no longer work, they have no alternative income. If they become mothers and fathers, they cannot take time off to care for their children. So one instant of bad luck, sometimes one bad decision, can lead to poverty and can lead to suffering. And the effects of this go beyond the individual level. Indeed, they are systemic. Without social protection, only a very few can afford the luxury of taking the risks that are needed to drive economic growth. So this is a key point. The social protection, the solidarity, because this is in the end what it is about, is crucial also for the economic growth, because it creates the margin for people to become entrepreneurs. So we need to break this circle, this vicious circle. We must stimulate economic growth that is not just able to absorb the growing young population, but to unleash its full potential. And the theme of this week's seminar is a part of that puzzle. It's exactly the creation of decent, of dignified work that can allow for a common, better future. And we are, of course, supporting this for a number of reasons. One of this, as a small economy, largely dependent on trade, we have an interest also in the development of the African market. I beg your pardon. If African growth is more inclusive, the better the African market is developed, the better it is for our businesses. As one another's neighbors, Africa and Europe are one another's neighbors, economic security and social protection are well-known antidotes to the attractions of extremism and violent upheaval. As close neighbors as we have every interest to promote the development of inclusive welfare states. And finally, we have the interest of a common humanity, and that's the most important argument, as we have all agreed in the Sustainable Development Goals. The expansion of social protection instruments and the decent work agenda are arguably the most effective tools in the ambition to leave no one behind. So for us, the challenge of inclusive African growth is a global one. And we have historically been a front runner when it comes to the promotion of decent work and social protection, building on our own social welfare system, which has developed over the last 150 years. And that development has not necessarily been straightforward. It has involved continuous political debate involving the government, employers, trade unions, and it continues very much to be a work in progress. Yet it does prove its worth every day, offering protection to millions of our citizens. And from this experience, we have the ambition to be a strong voice also at the global level for social protection, clearly by definition then beyond Belgium. From the beginning, we have been an arduous supporter of the decent work agenda of the ILO, both diplomatically, financially, and through practical action. And to develop that last point, we firmly believe in the global normative role of the ILO. As a member state, every year we pay our obligatory contribution, but we tend to double that contribution by voluntary contribution of the same amount. To use a proverb, a Flemish proverb this time, cooking costs money. And if we want the ILO to deliver on its normative mandates, then it does need the funds to do so. Normative work, of course, in itself is not enough. If you want to translate policy documents into actual change, we need active engagement with the tripartite constituents of the ILO. That's why, since 2020, we have been funding a flagship program called Social Protection Floors for All, with a specific focus on activities in Senegal, Burkina Faso, the DRC, Rwanda, and Burundi. And through this program, the ILO contributes to strengthening the capacity of governments, employer organizations, and trade unions to engage in a productive social dialogue. Secondly, we also work bilaterally with various African governments on social protection. Most specifically, the Belgian Development Agency INABEL implements a €50 million regional program with the Ministries of Work of Rwanda, Uganda, and the DRC, targeting in particular the promotion of decent work and social protection in the informal sector. And one of the tools to do so is through skills development, which is again the main theme of the seminar. But of course, this is not just about developing the skills. In fact, in the informal sector here, you note that many people are already incredibly skilled and really know their trade well. but they often have no papers or degrees to prove their skills. There is no documents to support that. So beyond improving the skills, one thing our program supports is the formal recognition of the skills, making them transferable, resulting in better wages and more job security. And finally, genuine social protection depends on social dialogue. And for social dialogue to thrive, civil society has to be healthy, proactive, and engaged. We support different labor NGOs, including from Belgium, such as the We Social Movements or professional skills development institutions like APIFE, as they partner with African countries, including here in Rwanda. So, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the objective of the seminar this week, gathering all practitioners in the city of Kigali, is obviously to learn from one another, to exchange experience, best practices. Our experience is also that social protection, decent work, skills development, these are no static concepts that we can ever fully achieve. They are quintessentially dynamic. They are really work in progress. And it is social dialogue that is at the heart of it and that can help us to improve. And yes, we may have differences of view as we are having these conversations. We may not always agree. But we gather all here because we jointly believe in the need to do better for those left behind. And there is, in that sense, there is no better compass than the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and the ILO's Decent Work Agenda. At the heart of this, it's the concept of solidarity, national solidarity, and international solidarity. And I profoundly believe that the whole world can actually learn something from the African continent when it comes to solidarity. Thank you very much. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you, Excellency Ambassador. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the launch of the TVET mapping report, building pathways to sustainable growth, strengthening TVET and productive sector linkages in Africa. We would ask Dr. Ashwani Agarwal from ILO to please come and give us a little peek via a few slides. He had prepared a lengthy display, but we are running behind time. Obviously, we're a little late. So, yes, please step forward. I think the pointer is right there. I think someone has the pointer. Do you have it?
Of course, they are the organizers because of time constraint. They're making some changes. But before that, I will request Honorable Cynthia, our Regional Director, as well as Ms. Doroba from the African Development Bank. Please come forward and launch the report first. Thank you very much. Thank you. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, representatives of government, social partners, and various institutions, all protocols observed. Considering the time constraint, I'll make a very brief pitch. Of course, we have a side event to organize tomorrow, where we will go in more details of this report. Let me just briefly mention the background of this one, why African Development Bank and ILO took up this study and came up with the recommendation. Since morning, we have listened to the various speakers, including the Honorable Minister from Rwanda. She gave a big pitch that why skills development is important and what changes are required. We all know these changes are required, but over the period of time, experience not only in Africa, but all over the world is that the investment and the TVET are not resulting in the desired outcomes. A lot of investments are being made, but still the situation in terms of skills mismatch remains there or rather increasing. So as the World Bank, as the African Development Bank and ILO are increasing investments, there was a question whether we use the same old recommendations or try to find a new approach. So that's what we worked on this one. And we were very conscious that we have to come something different, something unique, which will address this perennial problem. And we are very hopeful that a new approach has come, and the report is recommending some key formations in place so that the TVET systems can meet the expectations of the labor market and contribute to the sustainable, inclusive, job-rich growth in various countries. So basically, I'll just quickly go through. Okay, I'll go forward. Basically, what is the purpose of this report, as I mentioned? Can you please forward? It's not going. Yeah. Please go to the next slide. So I will pass on this slide also. Basically, this provides an overview of what is the current situation in the labor market in terms of demand and supply of labor, skilled laborers. Next slide, please. So considering the time constraint, I will not go through each of them, but basically, as previous speakers have mentioned, there are insufficient decent jobs. Thank you very much. So there are insufficient decent jobs, which means there is a low demand for skilled workforce, which is also a reason, but then it means within the government also there is a limited will, desire, and resources to invest in the education and training, which means when you're investing less money, and the education training systems will be weak also. And then, but at the same time, in Africa, the youth population is increasing. Means more and more people are entering education training system to get education and skills. But if the education training systems are weak, more demand is there, what will happen? Low education and skills attainment. So this vicious circle, now we have to break this vicious circle. So report comes up with some key transformations which are needed. Can you please slide? Next, please. So basically, this report comes with first transformation is there is a need to focus on quality dual training models and inclusive lifelong learning. What does it mean? Most of the training in African countries takes place at institutional training. And we know there's challenges in the institutional training. Challenges in terms of, because it's very expensive. You have to buy a lot of equipment, building, space, and other things. And as the technology is changing very fast, every 3-4 years, you have to change the equipment, everything, and no governments can afford. So what is the alternative? Form partnership with the industry so that part of the training takes place in the institution and part of the training takes place in the industry also. So it's very, very important. Another one is that in most of the countries, the focus is still on training for the young persons. But as we're fast changing the labor market, there is an increasing need for work-to-work transitions, training for the adult workers also. That's why the focus has to be not only on the pre-employment training, but also on the lifelong learning. So if you see clearly, Within the parameter of the circle which I'm showing here, globe, we have to also focus as a key ingredient of lifelong learning is focus on the core skills, which means promoting social and emotional skills, promoting cognitive and metacognitive skills, promoting basic digital and green skills for everyone. Dual training, which they various type of dual training models, using digitalization, not as only for e-learning or for training for the digital skills, but using this advancement in digital technology in the management of the whole system, monitoring, evaluation, data creation, evidence, producing evidence. It has become so easy, but many of the countries are not able to use these facilities. They do not have the expertise to improve their system performance. So please stop. So basically, if you see these recommendations in the circle, many of these recommendations you will see in many reports are there. May not be all of them, but many of them report you will find different reports. So what is the difference in this one? We gave extensive thinking on this one. What is going to be difference? How this recommendation can be achieved? So what we found is that there is need to theme mode transformation, which are the foundational transformation in the systems. So first one is develop country-specific credible reform path. What it means? Means you'll find a country's development strategy is talking about growth sectors are saying, for example, value chain in the agriculture, digitalization or something, but TVET is talking something else. So there is a need to align TVET strategy with the development reform process of a particular country. Also considering what is the country context, what are resources available, what are the implementation consent, what are the capacity issues are there. We should not just copy some good practices from other countries because those are not going to work. So we have to have a country-specific strategy. And also when I take a credible reform path will come if there is a ownership of all stakeholders. In many countries what we found, it is the government who is alone doing all the work. They are doing research, they are developing strategies. We are the social partners, employers, workers, and other stakeholders. They have to be together. So when they have the ownership, implementation will be better. And credible means it has to be evidence-based. Most of the countries do not have data, performance data, what is working, what is not working in their country. So most of the strategy is based on what is happening in some other country. So based on those, it's policy borrowing. So that has to stop. Next, please. Second, the key theme is TVET meets the requirement of labor market. So that means the labor market and TVET has to work very together. But in most of the countries what we found, there is a distinct gap between the two. If we bring the productive sector together with the TVET can understand what are the emerging sectors, what are emerging jobs, what are the skills requirement, and then they can use the facilities available in the industry to train the people also. But then question is a fundamental question which many countries do not address, why the productive sector or industry or employers will come forward to collaborate. What is their incentive? Most of the countries, they say we will want to promote apprenticeships, but they do not create enough incentive mechanism or an enabling environment for the industry to participate. So this is a very important point. Next, please. And the last point is having very effective governance, financing, and accountability mechanism. Financing is crucial because resources are limited. Most of the funding is input-based. So we have to consider performance-based funding based on the performance, but also we have to think or promote how the institutions can themselves also generate revenue. Because as we are seeing the technology changing so fast, if you put up an infrastructure in an institute, in 4 years, 5 years time, it will be outdated. And in 4 years, 5 years time, in one training unit, you will train hardly 100 students 5 years time. So how you can use this infrastructure for providing some other services, some other processes, consultancy, so that you generate revenue also. This is just one example. Please click next one. And also in terms of accountability, we have to have clear evidence-based accountability, but first before that, empower the institutions, build their capacity, decentralize decision-making so that they are empowered, but at the same time fix accountability frameworks though they are accountable. And so that means effective governance, which clearly is now in some of the countries very good, And I'll say, for example, Rwanda, where we are now here, is one of the examples of the countries in Africa where they provide a very strong, effective governance mechanism and accountability mechanisms. So we have to also learn from these things, good practices. Only when we have these three foundations, effective foundations, and then we look into this globe, what needs to change also into content, then we will have a new training model and a tiered system which will meet the requirements of labor market. There will be minimum skills gaps will be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Now, we will ask for our VVIPs. So basically, ministers, heads of delegations, all those that had speeches so far this morning, ambassadors, to please come forward. We'll have the official photo here. We ask everybody to remain seated while they're taking the photo. Then the VVIPs will exit the room before we get out as well. So if the photographers and videographers could please step forward. Thank you. Everybody else, let's please remain seated for now. Thank you. Protocol team, if we could help us guide our VVIPs at the front on the stage, please. Thank you. Protocol team, thanks. Photographers, please guide our VVIPs as far as how they stand in the picture. Thank you. To our VVIPs, thank you very much. You can now exit the room. Everybody else, let's please remain seated for now. Our VVIPs can now exit the room. Protocol team, please facilitate that as well. Thank you. Now there's a QR code here at the front on the screen. Please make sure you scan that. It's for all the breakout sessions that we will be having after lunch. So please scan the code. Thank you.